Hammurabae here with a tutorial covering the features being released in the 1.6 update for the Millennium Dawn mod, which is a mod for the game Hearts of Iron 4. This is a game-changer update in my opinion, as it adds some fantastic features that add even more depth to this already fantastic mod. I do want to note in the beginning that many parts of this update may look intimidating, but if you listen to this guide, you will be able to understand it. We will be covering the economic update, updated faction system, missile and satellite systems, and the new focus trees. Let's get into it. One of the most anticipated parts of this update is the economic system. In the past, the eco part of this mod was very simple in that it was derived from civilian factories. More civs mean a bigger, more powerful economy. Since industry drives economic expansion, this made sense, but was certainly lacking considering so many other mods like the Cold War mod, for example, have developed interesting advanced economic systems. The new economic screen is a nice balance between overwhelming detail and a lack of content. At the top of the screen, you will see the two main metrics for any modern economy, GDP and GDP per capita. GDP is the total of the amount of products produced and services and the amount spent in a given economy by all economic actors. It provides an imperfect insight into the economic strength and change in a country's given economy. By comparing it to other nations or to your own previously, you can understand how it is doing. The second metric is GDP per capita, which is the average industrial income in a country. This is also a very imperfect stat because it can be moved up or down dramatically based on the amount of people on the higher or lower levels. Regardless, it does suggest whether or not your citizens are getting what they need. Directly below this is a breakdown of the amount of factories you have, which is straightforward, with one notable addition. Office complexes represent all the jobs and companies who provide non-product based services, which can be absolutely massive in economic value in any country. A few examples being Facebook, Google, or Uber. They don't do anything in the game besides provide GDP and or value to the economy, so if you want to increase your national income, they are great, but don't expect anything else from them. The rest of this menu is a breakdown of expenses and income, which I cover in detail in the economic tutorial, which I will link you on your screen now. Generally, with the economic update, the important takeaway should be that your economy is a lot more complex in comparison to the past, and that all of your buildings produce economic value. However, they do also now require fuel and or oil to run, so factor that into your development. The faction system is a very old Millennium Dawn feature, but is getting some well-deserved expansion in this update. Just to briefly overview what this mechanic is, every nation on Earth has certain groups who have huge influence in the halls of power. For example, the US has Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, and the CIA as its primary factions, which if you know anything about the modern US, will be disturbingly accurate. Each of these factions will give bonuses or debuffs depending on their opinion of you, so it is important to make sure that these factions are kept happy. You can hover over them to see their opinion and the current modifiers. The way to improve their relations comes in two forms. The first is the focus tree. Assuming you are playing a country with a focus tree, chances are there will be at least a few focuses that make these groups like or dislike you more. In addition, a newly added mechanic is faction events, which now and then will receive a problem or request from one of the factions, which can help or hurt your relations with them. A very important thing to note here is that these factions can be changed. However, there will be a heavy political power cost associated for such a structural change. It is also important to note that major powers will be unable to do so due to the power status of the country. If you want to switch your faction, you'll need to do it before you grow in power. The modern world is defined by its connected nature. We live in a globalized world, one where we can find our location, send a text, make a call, or take pictures of your rival's nuclear launch silos. Technology has helped to end the physical divide, but with it comes a privacy crisis. In this update, this is no longer an abstract concept, but rather a game mechanic. The satellite system is divided between military and civilian uses and provides substantive benefits to both if a large enough network can be built. Satellite systems are divided into three distinct groups, so let's cover those first. The Global Navigation Satellite System is a technology and/or subtype that allows for geolocation, such as GPS. Every time you use maps on your phone, you are using these satellites to determine your location and how to get to where you want to go. It is something we take for granted despite requiring huge technological advances and an expansive satellite infrastructure system. Every satellite type has specific bonuses which can be found in the satellite system menu. If you click on the images, you will have the ability to upgrade coverage if enough satellites are added. Each level of coverage adds to the bonuses which can become very powerful. GNSS satellite coverage gives bonuses to construction speed, infrastructure, build speed, and resource gain efficiency. In addition, they give bonuses to division speed militarily, as well as some useful naval and naval bombing bonuses. The second type of satellite is the communications satellite, also known as ComSats. These are used for internet connection and data transfer, as well as radio, television, and calling services for the use of radio waves. In the modern world, if you are a developed country, it is vital to have quick communication systems. In order to see their bonuses, again, we go to the Satellite Systems menu of the Missile tab. In the middle grouping is for ComSats. The bonuses they give for civilian use is political power, as well as intel bonuses and some encryption and decryption. Militarily, they give huge org and planning bonuses, as well as bonus command power and some naval modifiers. The third and final satellite type is reconnaissance satellites, also known as SpySats. These are satellites which are fitted with telescopes and can take high-resolution, real-time pictures of anything on Earth. They are useful for intelligence gathering purposes primarily. Looking at the stat bonuses again, you will see that they provide large bonuses to research speed and intelligence. Militarily, they give planning bonuses, as well as recon and a few others. You may be wondering, this is all fun and dandy, but how do I get these things into space? Let's start by navigating to the Space Center tab of the missile interface. Here you will find the Space Program section, which is where you can launch your satellites. On the left side, you will need to start off by choosing an orbital launch vehicle, or OLV for short. These vary in the amount they can carry and their reliability, which decides the chance of a failed launch. Then you need to choose how many times you want the launch to happen. Keep it on 1 for simplicity's sake. And now you are finally able to choose your payload. At least one can always be chosen, but it's worth seeing if you are able to carry more. If you go over the limit, just click the clear payload and go back up to the limit. Once these are chosen, you are ready for launch. Click the launch button and hopefully you will see new satellites entering into the orbit screen. Though do remember, there's a chance you will get a bad launch and lose your booster and payload. If you want to get better orbital launch vehicles, you can do so by researching them in the space technology section of the research tree on the far right. Satellites are a key aspect of both civilian life and national security. Therefore, if one is at war with another country, being able to destroy them is key. This update allows you to both use missiles or drones to be able to take out your enemy's satellites. To be able to do so, go to the Space Center menu first, then click on the enemy satellites and target them. Then click on what type of attack you want to use. There's a chance of success and failure, with the bottom part of the space overview screen telling you the history of your satellite combat. For anyone who lived in the 20th century, the power and utility of missiles should be very clear and apparent. Hopefully those born in more recent times also respect the insane power these weapons possess. The ability to fire something which can level a city on the other side of the planet is something our ancestors would attribute to a god. Thankfully, modern warfare has stopped short of any uses of nuclear missiles after World War II, with only more tactical ballistic missiles being used in combat. The 1.6 update gives you a realistic and detailed series of mechanics in order to use these, in addition to the means by which to stop their fiery power. We will cover how they are launched, produced, defended against, and researched. The manner in which one of these missiles is produced is the exact same as satellite production. Head to the Production tab of the missile interface, choose the type you wish to produce, select the amount, how many civs will be used, and start its production. Pretty simple. If you are the US, you will find that your missile research is already completed and up to date. But for smaller or developing countries, the path to major power military status is a long one. This tab of the research screen shows you what to research. Here are the important ones. The ones to have are missile silos, which will allow you to launch nuclear weapons, in addition to the missiles themselves, which are what you will be launching at your opponents. To the right, you have submarine-launched missiles, and then to the far left, you have IRBMs, which are shorter range. At this point, we have covered the ability to create the missile. Once you have made a few of them, you will need to set them up to be ready for launch. The missile mechanics allow you to prepare trajectories before in a war or ready to fire. In this screen, you will see both the fire and alert buttons. Making a missile order with fire on will result in immediate use when able. The alert option will allow you to set them up in the event on getting fired on first. The nuclear doctrine section we will cover shortly, but it is important to understand some nations do not have the ability to do first strikes, meaning you can only fire after getting fired upon. Those nations are able to use the alert option to prepare launches against possible enemies. Let's say you're the United Kingdom, and in the game, Russia's getting squirrely. You have a nuclear policy that does not allow first strike, but you set missile orders for you to fire in the case of a war declaration and first strike from the enemy. In this case, these orders will automatically trigger and you will respond accordingly. That being said, let's set up a fire order. Start by selecting the fire type of order. Choose the missile type. Select the warhead. Under salvo, you will pick the amount you want to fire every week. We can choose 1. Then decide the duration. If you want a single strike, hit 1. Otherwise, you can choose a higher number, allowing you to fire salvos every week until the amount is reached. For example, let's say we want to fire on Brussels over a period of time. Choose 1 for salvo and click 10 for the duration. That means for the next 10 weeks, Brussels will have 1 missile fired at it. Do note that not every missile will strike. If the defending nation has proper defense systems in place, they will shoot some down. At this point, we will need to choose a fire location. This can be done anywhere you have built missile silos. Click the button here and then choose the target location. Once the launch starting point and destination is locked in, you can click this button, which will make the order active. It is important to note that strike order activates the first day of the week, so if you don't immediately see the missile fire, wait until the start of the new week. That is how you fire a missile. After you do it a few times, it will be a second thought. Also note, you do have to be at war in order for the order to activate. A couple other things to note here. The crosshair above the warhead chooser allows you to select what kind of buildings to target, similar to what you can do with bombers in vanilla. After you have fired, you'll be able to see the log, which tells you how many missiles hit or were intercepted, as well as what has been damaged. The threat of nuclear annihilation, or the capacity of missiles to make tactical strikes on key location, has resulted in many nations building systems to be able to counteract this threat. Millennium Dawn provides a missile defense system, which when used correctly can stop many missile attacks from enemy nations. If you look at the missile stream, it may seem intimidating, but is easily manageable. In order to set up your defense, simply select what type of missile you want to use, and then click Auto Deploy. The game will automatically attempt to stop incoming missile attacks. In order to be able to stop an attack, you must have defense systems within range of the location being launched from or targeted. There are multiple opportunities to intercept an enemy missile, and the quality of intercepting missiles will dictate the efficiency. In addition, having an advanced fleet air system gives an AA bonus to ships, making them much harder to damage with naval bombers. The type of systems you can use to protect yourself are SAM sites and ABM bases, so make sure to build those up in locations you think may be targeted. This research screen lets you get nuclear research, primarily better reactors for material production or more potent warheads. The 3 important researches needed before anything else are these 3. Once they are completed, further research in a nuclear program is opened up to every country. Nuclear reactors allow you to either produce nuclear material, which is used to produce warheads, or to create energy. Since actual energy is not a mechanic in the game, it will turn itself into fuel. This is not oil, so it won't be exportable, but will allow you to fuel your fleets and army. You can do so by choosing the low enriched uranium, or LEU. This is only efficient for fuel production. It will make your material production slow, so use HEU for warhead production. Then click the plus button to add civs to produce it, and choose what % you want to go to materials versus fuel. Once that is done, you'll be producing fuel, which you can easily see right next to the box. Before I cover this section of the tutorial, I'd just like to apologize to the FBI agent who's been assigned to me. I know this is wasting your time, so I hope you're getting paid well. Similar to how we previously made fuel, the production of nuclear material requires both at least one active reactor and the technology for warheads. If both of these are done, then you could start by selecting high enriched uranium, or HEU. After which, you add the sieves, just like fuel, choose the percent for material versus fuel, and then watch as you slowly get what you need. By choosing the warhead, you will see the amount of material needed each. Once you have enough in the stockpile right above, you'll be able to start producing warheads. Millennium Dawn allows one to choose the manner in which nuclear weapons and power are utilized. Some nations outlaw entirely, while others allow for its use even in a first strike. The nuclear status of a country dictates whether they can make nuclear material or fuel, and whether or not it can be used to actually make warheads. Nuclear doctrine dictates how nukes can be used. For example, some doctrines don't allow first strikes or have preconditions or limits on their use. Read over each one to understand them better. Lastly, look at the top of this menu to see the nuclear deterrence number. This number is an amalgamation of the doctrine, status, warhead count, and reactor count. For each 100 points of this score, you get a bonus 1% to political power. In order to become a nuclear power, there are several things that must be done if you are a minor nation starting out with nothing. The in-game tutorial screen will show you the basics, but I will briefly go over the requirements. To start off with, you have to get these 3 researches, which will allow the creation of reactors and basic warheads. At this point, you will be able to construct a nuclear reactor, which is needed for both fuel and material production. Once that is done, go to the missile menu and select your nuclear doctrine as a secret nuclear program, which allows you to start constructing a warhead once the necessary material has been made. This update does include focus trees for North and South Korea, Botswana, and Poland, as well as updated ones for Denmark and Brazil. Many people mention that they like the mod but want to see more focus tree content, so let me lay your mind to rest. There are many more currently in the works, but as you know, Millennium Dawn does not cut corners with the quality of their mod, so expect them in the future.